Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the global door. This is their part number TH1114KM. This is a TH1114KM. This is a Pitco style replacement set of top and bottom pivots. It's a left hand and it is in the aluminum finish. Let's dig into this. A Pitco door is just simply a manufacturer of aluminum storefronts and aluminum storefronts, and they would have made available their doors that would have required hardware set up in a specific fashion. Hopefully you're able to identify the door that you have based on a name being right on the bottom of the door, usually at the bottom rail. People that make a living working on aluminum storefront doors, I would imagine, can visually identify the brand of a door or know based on experience what they're dealing with. I usually can't, and you probably can't either, because you might have a convenience store or a restaurant and you just need a set of pivots. Well, how you and I are going to know what's going on, we're going to review this and then dimensionally record everything about the item. So our visual and dimensional review of the hardware is what will allow us to know absolutely if this is the correct piece of equipment. We're going to go from the bottom up to the top. Not a problem. These are handed. So first of all, you've got left hand and right hand. If the doors swing out, which they usually do, be mindful that they're handed left or right, which means let's not get stuck in the weeds, I should say, on handing. If you have doors that swing into the space, which could certainly be the case, if the pivots are on the left, it's a left hand. When you're on the outside, it's that simple. And you know, by the time you're seeing this video, I will have a link to our handing chart that will allow you to determine accurately what we're dealing with. So in-swing is either left or right. If you have an outswing door, and you're standing on the exterior and it swings towards you, here's the bottom line. If the pivots are on the left, that door is called left-hand reverse. Order a right hand. If the pivots are on the right, that door is a right-hand reverse. Order a left hand. There's a chart below this video that will help you navigate that. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. Unfortunately, the way our industry has put together the handing, even though it's a complete and rock-solid definition of handing, there is a learning curve to it, and I was certainly not the fastest in the class to make all of that quite clear. So there's a chart down below. This is a left-hand version. From your perspective, what you're viewing you are on the exterior of the opening, and as you view this video, looking at the video playback, the pivot is on the right hand side. This door is going to swing out towards you like this. Okay? That would make this a left-hand pivot, even though it's a right-hand reverse swing door. So this is what the bottom floor or frame portion of a left-hand Pitco TH1114KM style looks like. So what I would be in particular looking for on this to make sure is, what's the prep going to look like in the frame? Where are my screw holes? Okay, what are my dimensions? So let's go over that. And there's a telltale sign right there. I imagine the right hand is stamped R on the back of it. I happen to have a right hand pivot here. Indeed. R is marked R. Okay, now let's take some dimensional properties of this item. Overall height, 2 inch. Overall width, about 1 inch and 1/8, maybe just heavy on that. Let's use the dimension from the back of the pivot to the center of these holes as a gauge. You can see you're about 5/16 to the first hole. You can see that we're about 7/8 to the second 2 holes. and that we are about 1 pardon me, 5/16 to this bottom hole. Now, coming this way, from the exterior side, we're looking at about 5/8 down to about 3/16 approximately. So that's what I'd be looking for right away. An overall width of this pivot hardware, and this one's got a funny little prep on the bottom of it. This type of mouse ears prep that I've seen in other installation types. Okay. Let's go with an overall width of this. Aluminum and dark bronze colors available. Overall, put us right at about 1 7/8, but to the outside of that mouse here, it's going to be a little bit larger. This is going to be overall width about 2 5/8. This is considered a 3/4 inch offset pivot. That means from the face of the door, this is not so important. That's what this is going to be. From the face of the door to the vertical axis of pivoting is going to be 3/4 inch. What's very important to know on this is that this pivot apparently will work on a flush frame, a flush door, and an inset, an 1/8 of an inch inset or recessed application. When you stand on the pull side of the door, if you run your hand over the face of the door and frame, that can either be flat, flush, completely flush, or the door is kicked in a little bit. That's the inset. They're saying it's recessed. That's the inset. That's an 1/8 of an inch. This will work in either scenario. It's just going to be based on how everything's prepped. So hopefully those bottom dimensions will get you there. This is going to give you a vertical adjustment of 1/8 of an inch. You put a wrench on that, you'll be able to thread that out. Hold it with the set screw. I don't have a crescent wrench at my... Oh, there we go. You'll be able to unthread that and get your door kicked up ever so slightly. Up to 1/8 of an inch, they say. I suppose you might cheat that a bit more, but the problem with doing that, you get more than 1/8 of an inch out, and now you're going to not have your set screw holding that bottom portion. And you're certainly going to want that secured, because every time your door cycles, your pivot's going to move along with it, probably get stuck, and then just continue to loosen or tighten, whatever the case might be, and then your door's not going to operate. So 1/8 of an inch, get that tightened down so it doesn't move on you. Your bottom door portion is going to sit just like that. Okay. Now, when I analyze the plane between those two parts, here to here, they will certainly operate as a flush condition. If you had this all kicked in ever so slightly, towards the frame a little bit, it's still going to work where this was brought in, so that the door had to be brought in 1/8 of an inch. It's important to know in the sense of most pivots, and I'm surprised to learn or to read that this will work in either. Those installations from those manufacturers are either flush or they're inset or recessed. This apparently will work in either way. So here's your bottom door portion. Let's take some dimensions of this. You can have a bearing down in here. It's going to sit on that spindle, and that's going to operate all real smooth. Overall height, about 2 1/8. The location from the top, and you can see that it's beveled, and I'm just putting it flush against my tape measure. You're about 7/16 to the first hole, down to about 1 inch and 11/16 to the second. The width on that's going to be about 1 inch and 7/16. Overall projection, about 1 inch and 5/16. So now we've got a complete bottom assembly. Installing all of this is going to be, well, at least this portion is going to be easy, because you'll get underneath the door, inside of the aluminum tube that this is all built on. You're going to have hex cap screws that are included to get everything installed, and for stuff going into the floor. You're just going to have flathead screws that will go into the jamb to secure this portion. Okay, probably going to remove it, slide that up and under. It ought to be able to fit. If you bring that in and then just tip it forward. Moving up the door, now we're going to be at the top door portion, the pivot. That's a spring-loaded pivot that's there. Okay, you're literally going to push that down and get that to snap into the top portion, and that's how it's going to stay. As a result, what that means is you can't retract that without the door being opened. That's going to be your meeting. That's going to be your assembly at the top. There's really no reasonable way to get something in there to try to pull that pin down. Okay, so with the door open, you'll be able to access it through the top of the door and pull that pin down. There we go. In order to get the door to then, in your case, tip out. Okay, that's how that works. Let's take some dimensions of this. Overall height, again, about 2 1/8. Overall width, about 1 7/16 inches. Overall projection, and these pieces are going to be the same aluminum material, about 1 5/16 inches. That pin is going to project about 9/16 of an inch. Now your header portion, okay, probably the most important thing is where are those screws. Overall width, about 1 1/8. Overall projection from the face of the header, about 1 5/16. Let's go back to these screw locations. The center one's about 9/16. The bottom one's about 1/4, then over to about 7/8. From the face of the header, we're about 3/8, down to about 1 1/8 or so, 1 1/16. This will get put right into the slot that's in the header. Push it right in. Doors open. You'll be able to access the screws from underneath. You'll be able to tighten that up. You're in good shape. So, and then of course your screws basically for everything are going to be included. Now, installation of this material, if you're replacing, it's probably going to be just like I've told people, just keep unthreading stuff till things start to move. That's not always good advice, however. But in a pivot scenario, if I was going to remove this, I would open the door and I would get this retracted down and tip my door out and carefully put it aside. And then at that point, you can service the top portion. You can service the bottom portion. Okay. The door portions are accessed right from the bottom hollow channel, and then again from the top hollow channel to the bolt heads that are here for both of those. If you're doing an installation, the bottom line is, you know, your frame is going to come over this material. So this will be inside, and you'll bolt through the frame with your flathead screws. The 3/4 inch dimension is fixed. Okay, you have to decide if it's flush or 1/8 of an inch. But this will be behind the wall thickness of the frame. Okay, at that point, you know, your vertical axis of pivoting must be plumb. Everything else is determined at that point. So not a lot of work to do. I would define what's my dimension from the jamb to the center line of this. Make sure it's the same at the top. We know the 3/4 inch dimension. Drop a plumb bob. No elegant way to do that, even though other manufacturers, or at least one has, or two, have a tool that will connect into their top pivot and drop down to the plumb bob that you've included or that you've attached to it. So that will get you off to the races. And that pretty much concludes our review of this hardware. Global is an importer of commercial builder's hardware. They do have an offering of pivots that are used for a variety of commercial aluminum storefront manufacturers. There is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the global products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog that's there. And from within there, you will certainly be able to review all of the pivots. You get to the storefront section of their catalog, and you will certainly be able to review all of their pivots that are to be found there. Okay. If you have any questions on the Global Door TH1114KM left-hand aluminum Pitco style pivot set or any other Global Door product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.